Welcome back, everybody. It is December of 2020, and this is episode 24 of What Is On My Desk. So welcome back, everybody, here for episode 24, almost a full 2 years since I started this channel. So thank you, everybody out there who has been regularly following content, watching the videos, commenting, liking, subscribing. If you haven't yet, please like and subscribe. There'll be a bit more going on. You'll see in a little bit here about doing that. So please subscribe if you haven't already. And I got a bit of a full episode here for you. We've got some new stuff going on. I got a new model. I've got some new books to show you that I picked up, and then we'll take a quick look at those 4 kits that I have been working on. So a bit of a packed episode, and we'll get swung over to the desk here in a bit and take a look at those new products, the model and those 4 or 5 books I bought. But just a bit of housekeeping so you guys know, I do have some more content coming up in the next little while. I've got another 4 videos, I believe, of my already built models, going over the Spitfire models I built. So another 4 of those will be coming out. And then on the middle of the month, I have a new aviation history series coming out. You don't want to miss that. It's a bit of an interesting topic that a lot of people don't know too much about. So stick around for that stuff. Next couple of weeks I got some good content coming out, and yeah, so let's get over to the desk. Let's take a look at what I got going on. And as always, my name is Sean, and this is Sean's Aviation. And just before we get into the video, something I should have been doing a lot more up till now, and that is just asking you guys out there, if you enjoy what you're looking at, if you like what I'm doing, go down below, click on the like page, subscribe to my channel, and by all means, please click on that little notification bell. If that way you guys get alerted when I do get more new content up. I usually try to do the What's on My Desk monthly update beginning of the month. And I usually try to get a video or a series of videos released by the 15th, the middle of the month. So whether that's going to be a tips and tricks video, or an aviation history video, or my time-lapse videos of the previous model builds that I've got done, or an air show video, or some of my new product review videos I'll be doing. So I'm going to try to get something posted by the middle of the month. So please, if you're enjoying this, subscribe, like, and click that notification bell. Let's move on to the video. So I did manage to get a new model. I wasn't expecting to get this, but it presented itself, and it was something I really couldn't turn down, which is usually how I start off with these model reviews. I guess we'll just jump right into it. I'll show you what it is, and then I'll talk a little bit about why I ended up buying it. It is an extremely large box, and it is it's Monogram 1/48 scale B29. I gotta make some space on the model desk for this. I'm gonna break anything? No. Okay, so this is the slightly older boxing of it. This is actually the 2012 boxing of it. The B29 model, this model dates back to the, you know what, give me a second, I'll actually look it up. I'll tell you exactly when this came out. So yeah, it is 1977 when this model initially was released, and for the most part, the plastic you get in the kit has not changed since 1977. This particular boxing, with this sort of marking and everything with these decals, were released in 2003. And the copyright on the side of this box was 2012. There was another release in 2015 with a different box art and some different decals. So this is a bit later in the production run. This is one of the last ones to have been released before Monogram went belly up and disappeared. It is marked as Revell, but it is exactly the same in the Monogram boxing. Actually, that would explain why it says Revell. So the Monogram boxing came out in 2003, and Revell would have come out in 2012. As I said, the plastic inside is 1977 vintage, so it's the same era as their 148 Scout B17, their 148 Scout B24, All of those all kind of came out in the same time frame. So compared to what you would see today, in terms of molding, as we'll see here in a second, I'm just going to do a quick overview of this. As you'll see, it's not the best compared to what you'd expect today out of kits, but holding its age, and the fact that it's the only 148 to B29, it definitely holds up over time. Now, Revell of Germany is currently in the process. It's supposed to be out very soon. A new version of this model. It's basically, again, the same 1977 plastic. However, it includes some photo etch, some color photo etch for the cockpit, some photo etch for the flaps, the landing gear, a set of masks for the windows, and then a new set of decals for a post-war bird with a black belly. Now, that was the one I was holding out to get. I had put some money aside. I had a few Hobby Shop gift cards, and I had planned to pick that up. Now, that was going for the MRSP. It's all guesses at this point. They haven't really released the model, so no one knows what the actual pricing is. There are a number of hobby shops in Europe that are pre-ordering the kit, and they have it pegged of an MRSP of $199 US. So you're looking at probably $250 Canadian when all is said and done for the new model, and that's when you buy it in Europe. If you buy it from those hobby shops, you still have to have it shipped across the Atlantic to get it to your door. That's not going to be cheap. For any of these kits that get imported into the US, that $199 price tag is going to jump a little bit because you have to have them shipped to North America, and you have to have them locally, you know, put together, boxed, and shipped out to your local hobby shops. You're probably going to see $230 to $250 US brand new in hobby shops, which means you're looking like $300 Canadian for a model that's been on the market for, what, 40 years? And, I mean, the molds have paid for itself time and time again. So the price they're asking for the model is ridiculous, in my opinion. It is what it is, and if the market sustains it, then they'll make money. And if the market doesn't sustain it, especially in the current situation with COVID and the fact that not a lot of people are, you know, have a lot of extra money to spend, then for all you know, they might look at it and say, we're going to charge less. Or it might even be why the kit hasn't shown up yet, because they realize that releasing a kit at that MRSP is you know, corporate suicide in this market. So they're holding it until, you know, the world and COVID start to get a bit better, and then they will release it once they have a better chance of making their money back. I don't know. I'm all guessing here. I have no idea what their market plan is. I just firmly believe that close to $300 Canadian for a 148 scale B29 that is of 1977 vintage is absolutely ridiculous. So, that being said, this model at the local hobby shop, I inquired about whether they knew any time frame for the new Revell of Germany release, because that was my plan, because most of these were going for somewhere close to $200 US on the anywhere from $150 to $200 US on the resellers market. I inquired about what the price was going to be on the new one. I figured if I want to spend that kind of money, I might as well get the photo etch and everything else included. And he mentioned that he didn't know, but he had this on the shelf for $125 US. It ended up being $150 Canadian. That's what I paid for this. So $150 for this. I mean, considering the market value for these right now, it's a ton of money. I mean, if I 10 years ago bought into one of these, it'd be $40, $50 at the most. So the fact that these things are going for the money they're going for now is, again, it's ridiculous. And I can't believe I paid the money I paid for one of these, but I really, really wanted one. And it's a lot cheaper than what the current one is on the market. And considering that the plastic is the same, if those go on the market for $300 US, the price of these are just going to go up. Because you're still saving money and you're not getting much more than the model. So anyways, that's enough rambling on sort of my, you know, spending habits, I would guess you could say, on models. Let's crack it open. I've already pulled the paper off. It was a factory sealed box. For those out there who collect, I was blasphemous. I pulled the factory sealant off of it. This had never been opened until I opened it, but I did, because that's what I do, and I'm doing this for you guys, so you can see what's in it. So this is the plastic that comes in a 1977 vintage monogram. Yeah, B29. Like I said, I've already been into this. I've been fondling the plastic. I haven't opened up the bags yet, but I've been holding the bags and fondling some plastic and getting intimately knowledgeable with this B29. So we'll start off with the fuselage sprue. Move these lights up a little bit so you guys can get a better look. So the fuselage sprue, you get both fuselage halves on the same sprue. I'm assuming these are Bombay fuel tanks. I'll have to do some looking in the instructions to figure out for sure. But you get the Bombay doors, you get the pressure bulkheads for the front and back of the Bombays. You get the main wheel wells. I'll flip it over in a second so you can see it. You get some turret pieces, some radome pieces. You get a silver plate cover. You get a couple of covers actually. Looks like it gives you the option to do the silver plate B29. I'll have to look at the instructions. The atomic bombers. Looks like you might have the parts to do that. The rear floor for the rear cabin, including the side gunners and the beds in the back, and then this is the cockpit section with it's a decent detail. Like I said, it's what you'd expect from the 1970s. Some molded on. You get some detail here in the side panels what the throttles would be, as well as like the center console and everything here. So not terrible. Like I said, it's vintage with that the B17, B24, so you're getting roughly the same quality. A few details on the side panels of the cabin, at the cockpit at the front, and then the inside of the wheel wells. Again, decent detail. You're not going to get to see much on the inside of this thing, so I mean at the end of the day, it is what it is, and it is going to look like a decent model when it is done. Bit of flash. I mean, like I said, these molds are 40 years old, so it is to be expected that you get a bit of flash on them. The main wings, so this is the right wing, upper and lower half. You get some of the bulkheads for the cockpit, the nose gear. This is the main spar. Strengthen that wing fit. Some of the turret pieces here. One of the main landing gear legs. There's a couple of other pieces in here. I'm not entirely sure what they are for. As I said, I'll have to take a look at the instructions and figure out what some of those parts are. But yeah, so that's some of the, again, internal bulkheads and whatnot. And wings. The other half here, you get the left wing, and you get some more of the main spar, some more internal pieces. This is the Bombay racks that go inside the Bombays. You also get the nose gear doors, so you know, decent detail on that. Nothing too bad. Tail gunner seat is also included. It fell off the sprue, but you get the tail gunner seat here as well. Propellers. There's actually two. Go to this one here. So this sheet here, this sprue, they're duplicate sprues, exactly copies of each other. So you get 2 engines, 2 cowlings, set of bombs, half of the Bombay tube, 2 props, one of the horizontal stabs, some of the exhaust, some of the main gear doors, some of the cockpit seating, some of the turret tubs and whatnot, a couple more of those internal beds. And if you flip it over, it's literally an exact copy of what we just saw. So between the two of these, you get enough parts to do all of the little details. And then there's another set of props, which I didn't realize came as an option, but there's cuffed props and uncuffed props. So I'll have to kind of do the research and figure out when these uncuffed props got added to the kit. But that's a nice touch. And then the final piece here, you've got the main wheels, some more of the internal cockpit details, the engineer's panel, some of the machine guns, with the 4-gun nose turret, oxygen tanks. Looks like the roof to the Bombay, and then you've also got Fat Man and Little Boy, both of the atomic bombs, which I'll probably do up and put on a little display, make a little stand or something for them. Kind of cool to have those as a model. So you got the 2 atomic, and then you got your standard monogram pilot figures that stand around and do their thing. So that's what you get in the box. So I mean, and the clear parts. Clear parts are here. Not a whole lot. You get a few siding blisters, a few windows, and then the main cockpit. If I remember correctly, this main cockpit does have issues fit on the fuselage. I remember a lot of people building it and it didn't fit quite well on the fuselage, so I'll have to wait and see how that pans out and play with it. It had a habit of shrinking this way, so it was too narrow for the fuselage, and in other cases it flattened you know, as it cool, it would flatten out and it would be too wide for the fuselage. So I'll have to wait and see. If it ends up being a little too wide, I might have to do the hot water. It is pretty flexible. There's quite a bit of flex in that. So I might be able to just flex it and pop it into place. I'll have to wait and see how it fits, but yeah. So you do get quite a bit in the kit. I mean, it is a very large kit. The box itself is a lot bigger than you would expect it to be. And you do kind of have to play with getting all the parts to fit. I mean, the fuselage itself is just ridiculously big. Like, I mean, that's my hand. Like, the plane is just... she's big. So, yeah. You definitely need a little bit of shelf space to complete this one. I'm not even entirely sure when I will get to building this, because I just don't have the shelf space. I don't have anything large enough to put this on. I mean, I can give you. I mean, I'm sure if you've seen my videos, you've seen like that's my. You know, I don't have any shelf space over there for what I'm looking at here. So. Yeah, I'm gonna have to figure out what I'm gonna do here. I might have to put another a third shelf. I kind of do want to add a third shelf in this area. Shift this one up, shift this one down, and put a third shelf in the middle. Might have to do that to make it fit, because I'm definitely running out of space. So yeah, definitely going to have to figure out how I'm going to store the model over there. So I think it's probably going to be a while until I get to actually building this model, but I have it. And for those of you who... Well, first of all, let's... oh, come on, stupid box. Go back together. There we go. I'll go over quickly the decal and instructions. So the instructions are typical monogram instructions. They went to this later booklet style over the earlier sort of page out style, the one page big square one with all the different boxes. They went to a more simplified booklet style. So the copyright on the book, the instructions are 2004. So even though the box said 2012 on the side, instructions say 2004. Some aircraft callouts here. Again, these paint callouts, I should say, are very generic: flat white, dark green, brown, emerald green, military brown. Like, a lot of them don't make any sense. The yellow, the light gray, and the blue have some testers numbers, but other than that, they're pretty generic. So I definitely recommend, if you're going to build this, do your research, find out what it would have been done up as, and find your proper numbers and get your proper paint. Like I said, I'm a big fan of the Valleos. They have a good selection of military color paint. So I mean, whatever paint you use, don't necessarily follow these instructions. Do the research and make sure you get the proper shades to make sure it looks right. Otherwise, it's no point spending this kind of money to make the model look, you know, half-assed. I mean, I remember when I used to be able to save up a couple of weeks, you know, allowance or a birthday money and go out and buy one of these at Toys R Us. You know, 40 bucks. You know, that was big money, spending 40 bucks on something, but 40 bucks was not much. I mean, you'd get more than that for your birthday. You get 40 bucks from one person for your birthday. 20 here, 20 there, whatever. You could do it now. I mean, you're talking about $300 for a like, kids aren't going to spend $300 on a model these days. I mean, we're talking about, you know, in a couple of years. I mean, I'm going on a tangent here, but the days of a 12-year-old running out to the corner store and picking one of these things up and putting it together in a weekend is long gone. So if you're going to spend the money on this, make sure you do it right. So as usual, though, instructions, you start with the cockpit area. So you start with the forward main gear, nose gear, and then you flip it over and you put some of the parts on the cockpits, the seats, armor plate, navigator's table, and you put your pilot seats and your instrument panels in place. Bombardier seat goes in, and then the engineer's seats along with the cockpit door that goes on the floor, so you can have that open or closed. You then end up putting together the pressure bulkhead. Canopy cockpit goes in place along with radio racks and everything else. That finishes the assembly of the cockpit. Bomb bay goes together, forward and aft bulkheads, your tunnel, to go from the forward to aft pressure bulkhead, pressure vessels, goes through along with the bomb racks. You can put the bombs on if you want, and then your gunner's windows go in the back. Gunner's floor, seat backs, the chair, the bunk beds, pressure bulkhead, everything goes in place there. That gets put into place. Tail gunner's area gets put together. Everything else, you have the tail skid and all that goes together. Some panels on the inside of the nose. That's where that wing spar gets put together. You then glue the fuselage together. Canopy goes in place. It tells you to cut the one window out if you put the pilot figure in. Yeah, it seems a little much. It's pretty hard to cut clear plastic and to do that without ruining it. You can't even see what I'm pointing at. Look at that, framing. So it tells you to cut this window out right here if you choose to have the pilot figure in place. Cutting clear plastic is damn near impossible, and doing it well without ruining it would be very difficult. You'd have to use a Dremel with a small bit and just go super slow, and then sand, and that'd be very difficult to do. So, I mean, I might attempt it just to... I'd see if there's an aftermarket windshield available, so if I ruin it, I have something, but that might be something I could do, just so you could see more out of the inside the cockpit. But I mean, you're not going to see much anyway, so time will tell. Horizontal stabs go together, tail gunners goes in. This one gives you the option to cut part of it off if you decide to do a different style. Different style tail turret, so you can choose which type you want to do. Wheel well goes into place on one wing, and then the wing goes in. Tells you to do it for the other side, so you put your wings together. Your main wheels get to put together. Nose wheel goes together. Put the nose gear on. Part of your main gear goes together, so tires, landing gear, your door controls. Here's where you put your bomb bays on. You have the choice of going open or closed, depending on which way you want to do. You also have a choice of radome underneath, so check your references and see which one applies to the aircraft you're doing. You then start putting some of the turrets together, upper and lower, your aft turret, the forward turret. Your engines go together here, engines get installed, some of the antenna fit. Again, check your references, whether the aircraft you're building had these antennas fitted. It tells you the difference between the World War II location and the post-war location, so just make sure you do your research again and put them in the right place. And then you finish up with your painting guide. So both options that come in here are the overall natural aluminum, so you can paint with Alclad or you do your metal sheet, you know, your foil covering or whatever, you know, just silver if you want to go simple, but it would be an overall natural metal color. You also want to look, the B-29 had a strip of metal across the wings and through the center section. It was a different type of metal. The aluminum was slightly different, so it had a different shade, and it's a very noticeable shade, so do your research on that if you really want to make it look realistic. And then it comes with two different versions. One of them here is Hump and Honey, the first one. From the 462nd Bombardment Wing, 770th Bombardment Squadron, based in Chengdu, China, in July of 1944. So those would have been the ones that move in and fly from China into attack Japan from the west, versus the island hoppers who came up from sort of the southeast. It's interesting as it has a yellow rudder and yellow spinners. Bit of a colorful bird on that, and then the forward section of the gear doors were yellow as well. But otherwise, it's got nose art on both sides. I'll show you the decals in a little bit. The other one is from post-war, cream of the crop from the 19th Bombardment Group, 30th Bombardment Squadron from Katina Air Force Base in Guam in 1951. So I'm assuming that would be something that was during the Korean War. And it had a number of mission markings on the nose, as well as, it's interesting, it's got blue nose gear doors, blue around the nose, blue wingtips, and then a blue top to the tail, as well as these two blue panels on the upper fuselage. So it's a bit of a colorful one as well. That's what you saw on the cover of the box. So pretty simple instructions. I did notice there's nothing in here about the silver plate, so that would be something you'd have to look up using online for the Enola Gay or the Boxcar versions of this kit to find out how those silver plate sections worked. For the actual decals, they're nice. They're copyright 2003 from Revolt Monogram, so really nice quality. So you got Hump and Honey, as I said, and then you have the that I believe is the World War II version. So that Hump and Honey, it had that decal on the other side of the nose, and it also had these spirals on the nose gear door, the nose wheel, sorry, which gives it a little bit of a slightly different look. It's not something you see all the time, but it's definitely interesting touch if you wanted to do that. And then the other one, which was Cream of the Crop, and it had, like I said, all of this blue in the cape kind of area. That's the same blue that carries around all those stripes all over the fuselage. And it also had this on one side, this logo on the other side, and then it had these characters on the tail. And as a post-war bird, it also had USAF on it. That's actually interesting. Yeah, so it is the USAF only existed on the post-war one. It wouldn't have existed on the early one because the USAF didn't exist at the time as well. These roundels are the early roundels, and they include the red line to insert over top to make the post-war version of it. So you do get instrument panel decals as well, which is a nice touch. It's nice to see that Monogram sort of going down that route to make everything a little bit more detailed in the cockpit area. So that is basically that. I did go over them when I got them a few weeks ago, or a few months ago actually. I don't remember what video I went into detail with, but I do have a master plan for this kit, and it involves using these decals here, which are from Iliad Designs. So that's a printout of the instruction sheet for the model, and I have the ones that are here for Lady Boomerang, which are right here. So this is what I plan on doing it, which is this one right here, the big red Lady Boomerang on the nose on top of the olive drab paint scheme. So it's going to be a bit, you know, olive drab is a little more bland than, say, the overall silver, but you don't see a lot of the olive drab B29s done up, and I think it'll just do a nice touch for an early India-based B29 versus the later model B29s that are out there. So that is the B29 model kit. So we will move on. I have a few new books to talk about, so we'll look at those next, and then we'll move on to the models. So here we are at the desk. I've got a couple of new books to show you. I picked them up just today, actually. I got them on Facebook Marketplace, and I think I've mentioned it before. Facebook Marketplace is a great place to track down products that you are interested in. If you're into stuff, for example, with me, with models and aviation and books, I have a couple of sort of saved search terms. Things like airplane model, model kit, RCAF, aviation book. And then every so often I just check. And it's one of those things where if you see a really good deal, you have to jump on it. Because if it's a good deal, someone else is going to jump on it pretty much as soon as you are. So if you see something and it's worth it, and you're, you know, oh well, just do it. Just make the offer, and I mean, you can always turn around and sell it again if you choose not to keep it. If you see something you like and the price is higher than you're willing to pay, save it. Keep an eye on it for a while. If 2-3 weeks later it's still available, put an offer down. I've had a few times where I you know, saw something, kind of hummed and hawed, waited a little bit, it was still there. I offered them a better price, and they accepted, and I got what I wanted for a lot less than what they wanted for it. So all told, so today I ended up buying 5 books. It cost me $35. So some of them were $5, some of them were $10. It averages out to $7 a book, which at the end of the day isn't too shabby. Now, I don't know much about these books. There's only really one book that I know about, and it's one book that I kind of been keeping my eye on, that I've heard, heard good things about, read good things about. It's sort of on my list of a must-read book. So there's that book. I'll show you that in a little bit, but I'll kind of go down in order. I have the pile here. So the first book I have is called A Separate Little War. So it's the Banff Coastal Command Strike Wing versus the Kriegsmarine and Luftwaffe in 1944 and 1945. So the Banff Coastal Command Strike Wing was a wing of basically, it was by the end of the war they were flying Mosquitoes, and they were based in Scotland, and they fought the Germans sort of in that North Sea, you know, area into Norway and that kind of stuff. And it was an interesting group of people. They were very some of what they did with their aircraft was pretty amazing. They flew in horrible conditions, considering what you're used to in sort of the European war. Very cold, very snowy, very icy, very tough conditions to fly in, and they were doing a very difficult job flying low-level maritime attack in aircraft that really weren't designed to fly in that sort of area. They weren't designed as coastal command aircraft. They were basically bombers that were converted into coastal command bombers, attack aircraft. So pretty interested in this book. It was published in 2006, so relatively new book. It's priced at $32.95 US. So this is going to be something that would probably go for $35 to $40 Canadian if you were to find it in the bookstore. So I got that for, I can't remember which were 5, which were 10, but like I said, averages out to $7 a book. So that's going to be an interesting read. I've been following a build on Aircraft Resource Center of a beautiful 1/32 scale Tamiya Coastal Command Mosquito. So this was kind of a fitting find to tie into looking at that. Next book up is called Winning the Radar War. That's a memoir here by Jack Neeson. And I don't know too much about what this is. But he was an RAF member who ended up working on some of the early radars. And he was part of the group. There's basically the story of how the Allies outsmarted the Germans when it came to radar equipment and radar spoofing. So again, interesting book. I think this is a slightly older book. I want to say this was from the 80s. Yeah, 1987. So this book's from 1987. So it's a little bit older, but it looks like it's going to be an interesting book. It's like I said, it's got to do with there's a story in here in Dieppe, which I'm a little interested how that ties in. I mean, I have a family connection to Dieppe. My grandmother's biological father, who we never knew about him until very recently. He was actually killed on the raid of Dieppe back in 1942. So there's a bit of a mystery around the raid of Dieppe about what the true cause was and what they're actually going after and why they sent the group, mostly Canadian, into an attack on a beach that they knew would effectively fail. So it's an interesting story in and of itself. That's a whole other story. This ties into that attack, and it has to do with radar and technology, which again is something that I would be interested in. The other one is it's more of a I've never seen this series before. This Famous Flyers series. It feels like one of those Osprey books that you can get. There's a I don't know if I have one handy here. Yeah, see, so Osprey releases these style books where they focus on a specific topic. This kind of feels like it's the exact same size, you know what I mean? It comes across as the same feeling, but it's not published by Osprey, but it's called the Famous Flyers series. It's book number 2 in the series, and it's about Billy Bishop, which is a Canadian ace from World War One. Pretty amazing story he had. So this is sort of his story about his life, his combat, the equipment, the missions, the stories. So it's based off of his logbook, off of research, everything else. It's got a history of his kills and all that. So it's pretty interesting to kind of read a little bit of his life. It's one of those things, I know a little bit about World War I, guys, and I know the overview of it, but to actually know a deep story of a specific pilot, don't really get that. So that'll be a neat addition to the collection as well. The one that I mentioned earlier that I kind of knew I wanted when I saw it, and it's something that I had on my list of I have to read this book, it's this one here. It's called Thud Ridge, written by Colonel Jack Broughton. It's the story of F-105's missions in Vietnam, and I'm kind of getting into a Vietnam kick recently. I read 2 books about air cavalry, flying, helicopter insertion missions and stuff like that. One with who flew Hueys and Cobras, and another one who flew OH-6s. Then I'm also currently listening to an ebook. I actually just finished it. An ebook about F4 captain flying F4s for a year in Vietnam. So I do have quite a few books. I read a book about Mistifac, the F-100's Mistifacs. So I have read quite a few on the Vietnam. This is just another one of those series. So it's just about his story. It was written by him, sort of an autobiography of his time in Vietnam. He flew 102 missions flying F-105s in Vietnam. So it seems like it's going to be an interesting read. It's one of those things, a lot of what happened in Vietnam is very much an unknown story to most people, except those who are specifically interested in it. And for now, up until now, I really haven't been that interested. So, I mean, it's something, I mean, I'm interested in aviation in general, so knowing more about what happened in Vietnam is sort of a good thing to know. So I'm kind of excited to read this and learn a little bit more about the Vietnam War. So that was the book that I was very happy to get when I saw it was available, because like I said, it's been on my list for a while. Again, it's priced at $19.95 US. So I mean, you're talking about 25-30 Canadian. So the fact that I got all of these books for $35, can't go wrong with that. Finally, a little bit different in terms of what I'm interested in, but this here is the United States fleet carriers of World War II in action. I've never seen this series before. I feel like it's a one-off book in a series that they do, maybe because it's specifically sort of about naval topics. And this just happens to tie into aviation because of its fleet carriers. This may have been a whole series where there was, United States battleships of World War II and cruisers and destroyers. And I don't know how the series works, but I am pretty impressed with this. It seems like it's lots and lots of pictures, which again, me doing models, there's quite a bit of references in here to paint schemes and markings and demarcation lines and all that kind of stuff. Lots of interesting historical photos. As well as I just feel like the story will be an interesting story. I've read a number of books about the U.S. In the Pacific in World War II, and I feel like this will just broaden my knowledge about what happened in a lot of these battles. And again, it's a great reference for tracking sort of how it happened, where, and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's this was actually the book I found first. I saw this book first, and then the person who was selling it had literally hundreds of items on their marketplace, and they don't make it easy to search on Facebook Marketplace. You kind of just have to scroll through their entire listing. You can't search within their listing. At least I haven't figured out how. So I searched through all the books. I managed to track down these 5 that I was interested in. There's a few other aviation related books, but I mean, I can't start, I didn't want to go spending like crazy. I just grabbed the books that I knew. It wasn't just because they were aviation interested. There were books that I knew. I shouldn't say that. I didn't buy every book that was directly connected to aviation as much as I wish I could. I bought the books that I knew I would be interested in reading. Ones that I would sit down and actually enjoy reading. So I was very careful to kind of pick out, like I said, there was maybe another 5 or 6 books that were directly related to aviation, but it was just, I would have been buying it for the sake of buying it, and I would probably never look at it or read it or anything. So I'm glad I got these. I'll add them to the collection. They'll go into my list, into the cycle of getting read at some point. And yeah, so new products, that's pretty much all I have. So let's get set up here, and you'll get to take a quick look at the progress of those models. So here we are taking a look at those 4 kits I have on the go. So I'll do the same order I've basically been doing up until now, which in all honesty is just the random order that the 4 kits end up sitting on my work shelf up top here. So we'll start with the A6M0. So I have been making some good progress on that. As you can clearly see, wings are glued together, wings are glued on, the cockpit is glued in. I got the outer black painted around the cockpit, so when the clear part fits on, that area will stay black underneath, and then the frames of the cockpit will be painted black, masked, and then I'll paint black, and then I'll paint the camouflage over all of that. It is going to go in the standard green over gray, and I'm going to do a bit of salt weathering on the edge. So I will be doing a bit of a tips and tricks video on that, so you guys will get to see how I do a bit of the salt weathering technique. So I'll do that. It still needs a bit of cleanup. I got to clean up some of the seams here along the leading edge of the wings, get that done, get the tails glued on, get the cockpit glued on. But after that, it is more or less ready to go for paint. Everything else I can add on and touch up later. So this is coming along really well. It's a very simple kit, in all honesty, so it doesn't take long. So hopefully by the end of December, so when you get your next update in then January of 2021, I will be more or less ready to start painting with this. So time will tell. We'll see how things come with the other ones. But it's coming along. I'm very happy with it. It's going to be nice to add a Zero to the collection. I think I've only ever built one 1/72 scale Zero back when I was in high school. So I mean, we're talking 18 years ago. So 20 years ago maybe. So it'd be very nice to get this done up and out of the way and added to the collection. So that is the A6M Zero. Very happy with this kit so far. No complaints. So there you go, progress. Next up with the P39. I can't quite remember where it stood when I did the last update. But for now, I do have, if I'm repeating about it myself, sorry, the fuselage is glued together. So I got the fuselage glued together. The cockpit is mounted in place. Let me get that wobble out of the way for you. There we go. So the cockpit is in place. You can see all the detail inside the cockpit there is all added. The radio in behind here along with the wires that are added with the radio. So all that's done. Everything in there has also been given a flat coat so that it's nice and dull. And then I've also done some work on the seams. I'll know more after I put a bit of primer on there how that turns out. So that's that. I still got to put the piece here on the front to cover that up and add a few other little things. But it is coming along. It's going to be a bit of an issue. Not issue. It's going to be fun, I guess, is the proper what I'm trying to say. Painting all of this, masking everything off and getting all that painted. So it's going to take a bit of work for me to figure out how all of that's going to go together. I was debating on whether to do a bit of salt weathering on this one. I don't think I will. They don't seem to be that beat up in pictures I've seen. They were used as a training aircraft in North America, you know, in the United States near the end of the war. But for all honesty, they don't seem terribly beat up. So I might just do a little bit of standard weathering. We'll see how things go. There is white overspray on the leading edges, and I'm thinking I might do a bit of a salt technique on that. Paint the green and then paint the white and then kind of weather the white off of the green. I'm not entirely sure yet. I may just do a little bit over along the wing walks. We'll see. So on the wings, I mean, I haven't really done much. I did get these two little pieces glued in. These are the intake faces, so I gotta get those glued in. I have the little photo etch pieces that have to be glued into back here, which I'll do as my next step. And then I'm basically getting ready to start gluing the wings together. So that's the next big step on this. So like I said, I got those in, I gotta put the faces on, and then I basically just glue the upper wings on, and then I can get the wings glued to the fuselage, and then that gets me one more step closer to getting paint on. But as I said, I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to be doing for painting. I got to do some research on the P39, figure out what the weathering looked like while it was in service, do some research on that, see what I want to do. I know Zeros, how they look. They get beat to hell, and their paint really wasn't the best quality, so tons of paint would be wearing off the plane. P39s, I'm not entirely sure, so like I said, a bit of research to figure out where I'm going with that weathering, but I'll get to that later. F-15, I don't think I've done anything on the F-15 since you've last seen it. The fuselage hasn't been glued together or nothing, so the cockpit's in, it's all weathered, black wash, gray, dry brushing, highlighting the inside of the wheel well here has been done. My next step is going to be, barring any minor little things, I've got to check the instructions, make sure I'm caught up. As long as I am caught up, the next step is to glue the nose together, get the HUD inserts put in, get that all weathered down across the top of that cockpit, and then I can start working on the rest of the plane. But this I've been putting to the end because at the end of the day, this is going to be the easiest of the planes to put together. There's the least amount of work kind of thing to get this ready for paint. So I'm taking my time and focusing on the other ones. The C-45, this is where I've spent a lot of my time in the past month. I don't have a lot of time to work at the desk, and most of what I have had, I've been focusing on the C-45, and this is what we've got right now. So I've got all of the wings glued together. It's all installed. I got all the wheel wells, the engine well bays, everything's on. I've got the insert glued in for the leading edge extension here. puttied and cleaned up. I've got the extensions here on the cowlings. They're installed. A bit of sanding has been done on them. I'm going to use a little bit of white glue across the back just to fill in the gaps where that fits on, but I'll do that later on, right before I start paint. I've got all of this blended, sanded. It feels perfect to the fingers, so I'm pretty happy with how that all went together. I have been sanding away at it. It needs quite a bit of cleanup. I'm sure you can see there's scratches galore. I'll zoom in here a little bit so you can see. It's just covered. It's just covered in scratches. I've already gone over it with a fine sandpaper, and the grittier sandpaper I used just chewed into the plastic. So it's going to take a little bit of effort to get that all kind of cleaned up, polished down, ready to go for paint. I mean, the good news is I can give it a coat of primer, see how it feels, and then go from there. I also need to pick up, I was going to get alcohol wipes, so I can wipe it down with alcohol, and then from then on handle it with a glove. So when I paint it, it doesn't leave any oil from the fingers on the wing, which allows that water-based paint to not stick very well. So I do need to play around with that a little bit. Underneath here, as I said, I got these all done up. There's a horrible seam that runs right through here, middle of the trailing edge and flaps. So I did do a little bit on cleanup on that. We'll see when I get a coat of primer on that how it turned out. I feel like it's going to need a bit more work. It's just a long, tedious process of sanding down all of these little ridges. So I'll have to wait until after I get a coat of primer on it, see how that looks, and then go from there. So that's the wing. This is where a lot of my work has been in, just getting these wings glued together. I'm working my way around, all because it's two upper and lower halves, so it's a bit of a weird fit. Getting these cowlings, you can see how this one I glued first went together nice. The one I glued together second was all misaligned. So there's some misalignment going on in the wing. So I had to clean all that up a little bit. And there's been a lot of work of just coming down, gluing, clamping, walking away. The next day, gluing, clamping, walking away. Because I only have a little bit of time in the day to work on stuff. So slowly poking away at that. I have had the fuselage taped together just because I love putting it together and taking a look at what it's going to look like when it's all put together. So I've just been popping this on and off all the time. Just loving the look of this thing. So getting close to getting this ready. You'll also see here at the front there's quite a bit of work that's going to needed to be done in here to clean all these seams up. And this is going to be an owl-clad paint job. The cowlings will be black, so it won't be that bad of a problem. And these flaps are going to be painted just bare aluminum, like aluminum lacquer paint almost. So this won't be that bad, but the rest of the wing is all going to be done in owl-clad metallizer. So I need to make sure I get this as nice as possible. If it all goes south, I'm just going to paint the whole thing in aluminum paint and be done with it. But I'm hoping I can do it with the Alclad lacquer and have it turn out well. So I'm trying my best to get as smooth as a finish as possible on this in order to pull that off. But we will see. So unfortunately, that's about it. I haven't had a lot done. Like I said, I've been focusing on putty sanding repeat, putty sand repeat, yada 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 on the C45. And I've been plugging away on the other ones when I have a bit of free time and just to break my concentration a little bit because I'm tired of working on the same plane all the time. So it's taking a little bit longer than I hoped, but it is moving along. So hopefully by December, you guys will get to see a bit more progress on those 4 kits. And then we'll get those time-lapse videos of these builds up as fast as I can after that. So until then, as I said, I have some more content coming out in the next little while, some more built models. I've got some aviation history stuff. I'm going to have a few more tips and tricks videos coming your way so you can take a look at some of that stuff. And for everyone out there who has been following, I've had quite a few new subscriptions in the past little while. So thank you everybody on that. And don't be afraid, there will be some more content coming out. So thanks again, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you for watching, guys, and as always, if you are interested in any of the content you see, you can access my website at www.seans-aviation.com. You can see all the latest pictures of aircraft and museums and the build logs of all of my current models and past models on that site. And if you're interested in any of this content, please click the subscribe button here on YouTube to follow more. Thank you very much, and see you guys next time.